It's Jordan Love. It's CJ Stroud, a marquee matchup that for some reason is not on in prime time, but it is a Locked On Packers, Locked On Texans crossover Thursday.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome inside another Locked On crossover, Locked On Packers, Locked On Texans. I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers. For those of you who don't know me, I'm with Brian Barefield, aka Big Sarge from Locked On Texans. And we are so excited to dig into a juicy matchup. Today's crossover Thursday presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Big Sarge. This will be one of 3 times this week that I will open an interview with a Texans person asking this question. Why with CJ Stroud, with Tank Dell, with Stephon Diggs, is this offense not cooking at a higher level right now? What's holding them back?
Well, you got to look at it like this. And first of all, thank you for having me on. You have to look at it like this. That's an offense where Bobby Slowick is still of a year, not even a year and a half yet. It's like a year and a quarter of being an offensive coordinator. Remember now, he came from the defensive side of the ball, but he was also under that Kyle Shanahan tree with the San Francisco 49ers. And so this is brand new to Bobby. Not only is it brand new to Bobby, last season, of course, he had CJ Stroud and he had Tank Dell and he had Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. And at that time, they had Devin Singletary, who had overtaken the starting running back position from Damian Pierce. And so everybody's learning at the same pace. No real big expectations, especially because of the 3 years of adversity that they had went through, what they went with the former quarterback that now plays in Cleveland. We just call him 4 here. So number 4 who was here. And then you get a first-year head coach in D'Amico Ryans. You get a first-year offensive coordinator in Bobby Slowick. And so Bobby is calling these plays with this amazing quarterback that he had, not knowing that that's what he was going to get. And a lot of times CJ was making things happen as they all learned the offense at the same time. Well, at the end of the season, with all the success that they had, Nick Caserio was like, general manager Nick Caserio said, this ain't enough. I need more. So now you go out and you trade for Stephon Diggs,
right?
One of the top wide receivers in the NFL. You trade for one of the better backs in the NFL in Joe Mixon. And now you insert that into everything that you already had with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. Then you also go and you draft a hybrid tight end like Cade Stover that's going to be getting, learning more and more of the offense. And
Takes time in tight end for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So the thing is they're still learning. CJ had said earlier in the season, and I spoke with him about it on Wednesday. He said the season doesn't really start for us until after week 5. And he said, especially now, because there's so much of us still trying to get comfortable and learn from each other. This is also an offensive unit that Joe Mixon didn't practice a lot of training camp. The majority of the offensive line was missing. And so there's still continuity issues that they're learning. Juice Scruggs has only played the center position, including the 2 playoff games that he came back last season, because when he came back off of the injury reserve, he was a left guard because starting left guard Kenyon Green was out. So now you got Kenyon Green, who's back, his first time in Bobby Slowick's offense. You got Juice Scruggs playing 6 games at the center position. Those two trying to get their continuity together, along with Shaq Mason on the right side. And so I'm using the offensive line as an example because they have to get the continuity down. They have to get themselves together in order for the rest of the offense to go. And so when Nick goes out and he gets Joe Mixon, when Nick goes out and he gets Stephon Diggs, that's a lot of options, but there's only one football with still a brand new offensive coordinator. So what they're learning to do now, what Bobby is learning to do is how to get everybody involved, how to get everybody the ball, because Joe Mixon wants to touch it. Stephon wants to touch it. Tank wants to touch it. When Nico comes back, I mean, think about it. Nico Collins was the leading receiver in NFL. He was leading in the NFL receiving yards before he got hurt. And so the only
wasn't even close.
Right. The only issue that they're having is learning how to play with one another, learning that continuity. And when they do, see, they're 5-1 right now. The way that they haven't even played their best football yet. Even with the 41-21 win over the New England Patriots this past Sunday, that still wasn't their best football. By week 11, week 12, if they're fully healthy, I'm going to tell you right now, the only other team I feel like that would be able to stop them will be the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, so it does seem awfully convenient to me that the season starts after week 5 and they just had their best game of the season. That just seems awfully convenient to me personally from that standpoint. But and you know, look, I understand where you're coming from, but I have to tell you, I watched a Malik Willis team where Malik Willis had been with the Packers for 3 weeks go and hang 250 rushing yards on the Indianapolis Colts, a team that plays in Houston's division that they played the week before. And I saw that Malik Willis offense in a lot of ways look better than the CJ Stroud offense, which is not something that I would have thought I was going to say. So I guess from that standpoint, I'm hearing you and I hear the continuity questions and I go, okay, well, but that's what you have CJ Stroud for. And that's supposed to be what your boy genius offensive coordinator is for, who's getting head coaching buzz before the season. They're 17th in DVOA on offense.
But wait, Peter,
I thought they'd be better.
Wait, hold on, Peter, because the week 1, when everybody was healthy for the Houston Texans, Joe Mixon put 159 rushing yards on them.
He did.
And CJ Stroud carved up that defense. If you take away the 2 big pass plays from the Indianapolis Colts, the Texans blow them out. And so, and you're also talking about the first
those
week
plays count, right?
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Those 2 big plays kept them in the game. But if you take away those, the Texans were dominant that entire game. And so I get what you're talking about, Malik, what Malik Willis did, but I also watched week 1 sitting in that stadium and Lucas Oil Stadium. And I'm saying to myself, oh yeah, when this team is fully healthy, they can't be stopped. The following week, the injuries start. You lose Joe Mixon, you lose Damian Pierce. You're playing with Dare Ugamawale and former running back Cam Akers. And so when you don't have those, Tank missed a game, when you don't have that, Juice missed a game, when you don't have that, we're talking about an offense that they haven't played at full strength just yet. And to your point, how long has Matt LaFleur been calling plays?
Well, longer. Yeah, 2019. He started as that coach and he called plays in 2018. So there's more muscle memory there for sure. It's more in a way a compliment of CJ Stroud.
Yep.
Where I'm just sort of like, I expect more from an offense where a quarterback as good as him is at the helm. And I don't think it's his fault. I actually think it is. I think first it's the offensive line's fault. They were supposed to take a step forward and they haven't, right? Like that was supposed to be more. They were supposed to have more continuity this year because last year, I mean, what did they set a record for most starting lineups with the offensive line? Like they could not find 5 guys to play offensive line in Houston last year. This was supposed to be, if not a strength of the team, something that they could hang their hat on a little bit more. And it hasn't. Before we get too far down the rabbit hole, I want to quick talk about the defense because the defense has actually been the strength of this team so far through 6 games. They're second in DVOA. Daniil Hunter has been everything they could have wanted him to be and so much more. Will Anderson has taken what seems like a year 2 leap. What has been the biggest difference last year to this year that has set them up going from a pretty good defense to one of the preeminent units in football?
And don't forget, on Wednesday, Will Anderson Jr. was awarded AFC Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah.
So based off of what he did, though, that great game that he had against the New England Patriots, what you see what you see with the Houston Texans defense is the total opposite of what you see from the offense, because DeMeco Ryans is a former defensive coordinator, and so he knows how to draw up schemes. Matt Burke, who is the actual defensive coordinator, was calling plays when he was in helping call plays when he was in Arizona and working with players like JJ Watt. And so when you get those 2 minds together, and especially DeMeco, who's played on the defensive side of the ball, which helps out a lot. And so when you're looking at the defense, you're looking at the strength of that defense. You're looking at Will Anderson Jr. on one side. You're looking at Danielle Hunter when they went out and got Danielle Hunter on the other side, and them being the dominant forces that they are, the disruptive forces that they are, coming off the edge, forcing everything back into the middle, where the interior linemen like Foley Fatukasi, Tim Settle Jr., Khalil Davis, they're having, very, very good seasons by having everything pushed towards them. But when you look at that defense, what really makes them go, what really has taken this Houston Texans defense to the next level is middle linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. Him and D'Amico, it feels like they share a brain, because they think so much alike. They always talking to each other, but they think so much alike. And it's almost like D'Amico's on the sideline transporting his mind into Azeez, and Azeez is just making all these plays. Azeez is one of those players that he studies so much, and he still plays with that chip on the shoulder as being undrafted. And one of the reasons why he ended up in Houston was because when D'Amico was in San Francisco, he wanted Azeez. He went and got Azeez. And so when you have Azeez in the middle, Azeez knows the responsibility of every player on that defense and what they're supposed to do on every play. And he holds them accountable as well as he holds himself accountable. So now you have him. His play is rubbing off on second-year linebacker Henry To'oTo'o, who has taken a step up to the next level. So you have those two. You have Will Anderson Jr., you have Danielle Hunter. But then you got a shutdown corner on one side in Derek Stingley Jr., rookie Kamari Lassiter, who will probably be out this week due to injury, but he's playing. I mean, he's a two-time NCAA champion with Georgia, so he has that mindset. He has that mindset of I don't want to be beat, and I'm competing with Derek. I know what Derek is, but I want to be just as good as Derek. And then you got rookie Kalen Bullock from USC playing a safety, long, athletic, rangy ball hawk. So that defense is a mirror image of everything that D'Amico Ryans is, and that swarm mentality.
Unfortunately for the Texans right now, Al-Shaair did not practice on Wednesday. To'oTo'o did not practice on Wednesday. And as you said, Kamari Lassiter expected to be out. Jimmy Ward reportedly also going to miss this game. So those would be pretty huge losses. We're going to flip the script here, Sarge, when we get back on a Locked On Packers, Locked On Texans crossover Thursday. Today's crossover Thursday brought to you by our friends at Arena. For most of us, like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more just isn't in the cards. See what I did there? That's some serious money to drop. Thanks to Slam Packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that you listed is hit in just weeks. Arena Club Slam Pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all the possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. They are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency, because after your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL with code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. When you're looking for tickets to a game, you don't want to go through a million tickets. You want to go through the best tickets. Well, what if I told you at Gametime you could go and find and see just the best ones curated for you? Well, you can, because Gametime created Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite game, concert, comedy show, theater, whatever you want. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LockedOnNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LockedOnNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. All right, we're back. Locked On Packers, Locked On Texans, a crossover Thursday. a 4-2 versus a 5-1. This is why we do this, right? This is the fun stuff for us here. And I'm happy to answer whatever questions you guys got for me, because I know the Texans fans might not have been paying as close attention to the Packers as they've been to their own team.
Well, fortunate for you, I am like a Packers diehard fan, through osmosis, because my wife is a Packers fan. She knows.
Well, here we go.
Right. She knows your roster. She knows your practice squad. She knows your kicker, your new kicker. She knows,
I was going to say the new kicker.
Yeah, she knows your coordinators, head coach. She knows everything. So, like I said, fortunate for you and the Locked On Packers fans, I am well versed when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. And what I want to start with is what Jordan Love is going to show up on Sunday against that Houston Texans defense, because I know that he was out for 2 games, and when he came back, he did not look the best. He had 12 touchdowns on the season, 6 interceptions, and with what the Packers have as far as like in the head coach Matt LaFleur being able to call those plays, but with the talent that they had, they went out and got Josh Jacobs. We'll talk about the running game here in a second, but which Jordan Love are we going to get on Sunday?
I will take you back to last year, middle of the season. They went into Pittsburgh, and Jordan Love threw two interceptions in the second half, but he also made some throws in that game where, if you talk to the guys in that locker room, you talk to Matt LaFleur, to a man, they bring up that game where they went, "Oh, this is a different guy than we thought he could be." That he showed a acumen to handle an exotic set of anything Pittsburgh could throw at them. And they're not, Brian Flores exotic, but they will bring pressure. They play tough defense always. That is a Mike Tomlin staple, right? And Jordan Love handled it with aplomb.
Yeah.
And then you see he goes into Detroit on Thanksgiving Day and lights up that Detroit Lions team that goes to the NFC Championship game. And then the Kansas City Chiefs come to town and he lights up KC. And then they go to Minnesota against Brian Flores and a top 10 defense, and he lights up the Minnesota team 30 plus on their head. Top 10 defense in Dallas. He goes into that building. They put 40 offensively on the Cowboys, plus the Dak pick 6. And so I'm not going to say he's going to do that to Houston, but if you're going to look at him and say, how does he do against elite defenses? In the second half of last year, when he was making that historic run, it was against a lot of the best defenses in the league. He's seen now basically everything that the league has to throw at him. He's seen versions of this DeMeco Ryans defense. And I expect him, he looked as healthy as he's looked all season on Sunday against the Cardinals. I know that Cardinals defense is absolute cheeks, but it's a nice little warm-up, right? Like it's a nice little preseason game to get you to the big boys, because they're going to have to bring the hard hats against the Texans on Sunday.
Yeah, and they definitely, playing the last 2 weeks, going up against the Rams and going up against the Cardinals, that's a way to fine tune to get ready for this swarm mentality of this
a little patty cake before a heavyweight fight.
Yeah, before the Chiefs Texans. But the one thing that the Green Bay Packers has always prided themselves on, outside of having very good, let me put it like this, great quarterbacks. Brett Favre was a great quarterback.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers was a great quarterback. And now you have Jordan Love following in the footsteps. But you also always kept very good running backs. And now you went out and you got a running back like Josh Jacobs. How much does having him make that offense go?
Especially now that Jordan Love is healthy and they're able to get back under center, it is an enormous boost. And to the point that I made earlier, they only beat the Colts and the Titans. You're welcome, by the way, because of the running game.
Yeah.
I mean, 200 plus yards against the Colts. And then in a game where the Titans were not going to let them just win the game running. Malik Willis made a couple of plays, but right now the Packers are 9th in EPA per play on offense. But the rushing piece of it, they're 13th in EPA per rush, and they've been able to create explosive runs. It's not just Josh Jacobs. It's Emmanuel Wilson, who is sort of press gagged into duty as running back too. He is a dynamic back in his own right. That throwback screen against the Titans in week 2 is a great illustration of it. He had to make a couple guys miss, and then he's off to the races. But Matt LaFleur is also extremely adept at, here's Jaden Reed on not just a jet sweep. Like, he's not just going to use the jet sweep. He's going to use orbit motion. He's going to use orbit return motion, and he's got a little spinner series. He's got a, they ran single wing for 2 weeks with Malik Willis, and they kept some of that stuff because it worked, because it's interesting, because it's hard to defend, and because it sets up everything play action wise. And that's what Matt LaFleur, I think, is the best coach in the league at designing an offense where you have the play and then the play off the play. And then, just to take it an extra layer, he will run the double move on the play off the play. And all of a sudden, when you think, hey, we've got this play action, we know that they're going to run this play action off this outside zone look.
Yeah.
Now, instead of running the deep over, it's the deep over and return. And that's a lot of what the Packers did to the Cowboys in that postseason game. So having the run game allows the Packers to play the style of offense that they want to play, which is not dissimilar from the way that Bobby Slowick and company want to play. It's just that the Packers offensive line and their running game make it easier. And Jordan Love has just been more comfortable in that under center world than CJ Stroud has shown to this point. And that's not a knock on CJ. It's just, that's where he's comfortable playing. Joe Burrow, same thing. He's more comfortable in the gun. Aaron Rodgers was always more comfortable in the gun. Peyton Manning was always more comfortable in the gun. So every quarterback is going to do it differently, but for this offense, it's essential for what they're able to do. So they're going to have to be able to run the ball against Houston, or at least make Houston think they're going to run the ball.
Now, and I like, the one thing that I like about Josh Jacobs is that he runs very hard, and he's one of those ones. Like I talk about with Dameon Pierce, he's a contact magnet. He doesn't shy away from contact. He actually runs toward contacts. I think that he's forced 28 missed tackles, and I think that's tied for 6th in the league. And so when you get him going, you get that running game going. Now, I will say this: for as much as you talked about Jordan Love, for as much as you talked about Josh Jacobs in the running game, I like Jaden Reed, but I honestly and truly don't trust. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't trust Romeo Doubs because I don't know where he is mentally when it comes to being on the field. And Christian Watson, right, stays hurt. Like, I'm surprised that he's not on the injury list right now. Every time you turn around, and I remember him, his breakout game was against the Dallas Cowboys. Fan. Side note, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I remember him having that 3-touchdown game against the Dallas Cowboys. He should have had 5 touchdowns. Right. And then right after that, how many weeks was he on injury reserve? He stays hurt. So I don't trust the wide receivers for the Packers. Changed my mind.
So it's interesting you say that, because I look at this secondary and I go, if the Packers can protect, if they don't let Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter wreck this game, I think there are opportunities for the Packers to use their speed in this secondary, because I like Derek Stingley, but I think you can beat him over the top. I like Kamari Lassiter. He's not going to play, it looks like. And even when he was playing, he's a 4-6 guy. He's not a burner. We saw the Packers are excellent, especially against teams where they know more or less what the coverages they're going to get are. They know what DeMeco Ryans likes to do. DeMeco is not a Brian Flores coordinator where he's like, I'm going to show you a million different looks. That's just not how they play. And that's, they've been really good at it. Right. Yeah. But I think Christian Watson, we're talking about a mid 4.3s kind of guy. We saw the speed. Him against Budda Baker was an absolute mismatch. And you get the big touchdown. Romeo Doubs can absolutely run. And then Jaden Reed has been a big play magnet this entire season. And they find interesting ways to get him free. So I really like this matchup with these receivers because, as you said, there are some injury concerns. Christian Watson's healthy right now. Romeo Doubs scored 2 touchdowns against the Cardinals last week. In his return, they seem to have moved on. And Jaden Reed has been one of the 10 best receivers in the league so far through 6 weeks. So I really like this matchup. But I think if the pass rush can get home, it's not going to matter. And so let's delve into some of that stuff. Let's get to the keys of victory coming up on a Locked On Packers, Locked On Texans crossover Thursday. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. This line has been moving a little bit, 2.5, 3. It opened at 3, moved to 2.5. I think it's going to close at 3. And right now at FanDuel, they want to get you a monster bonus, a guaranteed monster bonus. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, open up that FanDuel app or go to FanDuel.com. You can check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Hit another live bet the other day. pulled up those. I knew the stats. I didn't need to see the stats, but I could see what was going on. I could see the live lines. Bang. And I'm making money. And right now, FanDuel wants to give you some money. You don't even have to win your bet. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get started. And thank you for making Locked On Packers and or Locked On Texans your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, go check out Locked On NFL now with 2 shows every day. The Madman Tyler Rowland, who Big Sarge knows, from the AFC South, brings you a double shot of morning NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins, who Big Sarge knows in the AFC South, for some real NFL talk. Find out Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. 2 of my absolute favorite people to talk football with. Go check that out. You are lucky that you get to do crossovers with them twice a year, Sarge. So paint me a picture for a Houston Texans win. What does it look like? What is the one thing they need to do to get that dub?
In order to get that dub, they have to make sure that they protect the ball, because the Packers secondary is ball hawks as well.
Mm-hmm.
They love, and if I'm not mistaken, they lead the NFL in interceptions
and in total turnovers. All the turnover stats, Green Bay's at the top. Yeah,
but the one thing that CJ Stroud is very good at doing is protecting the ball.
Yep.
I mean, he has some interceptions this year. The interception that he threw last week really wasn't his fault. It hit Dalton Schultz in the hand, and so CJ is not just going to give the ball away. What I'm curious to see, and we talked about the wide receivers of the Green Bay Packers. I want to see if Nixon, and I want to see if Jair Alexander, if they're able to stay in front of Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. Even without Nico Collins, they're really good. I want to see if the Packers defense can stop Joe Mixon or re-energize Joe Mixon, who's coming back and playing with a vengeance. And so that offense has to get going early and often against the Packers. And they also have to be able to supplement for the injuries, because there may not be an Azeez Al-Shaair, there may not be a Henry Toa, there may not be a Kamari Lassiter, and they have to have that next man up mentality. And so Neville Hewitt is going to have to step up. And here's a former linebacker that when he was with the Jets, he was a starter, had one season, I think he had 143 tackles. And so he's capable of doing it. It's just that he hasn't gotten the reps and the opportunity. So the offense is definitely going to have to get going early and often, no penalties, so they can sustain long drives. And then that defense is going to have to step up and put a lot of pressure on Jordan Love.
So the key to me, at least defensively for the Packers, is no big plays, because Houston's offense has really been reliant on not just big plays, but late down big plays. 3rd down, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. You get a holding call on 1st down. You pick up 8 yards, and then it's, you're having to work from behind the sticks. The Packers have to take advantage of that. Right now, the Houston Texans offense, 25th in success rate. The Packers are going to say, if you want to go 10 plays, 12 plays, 14 plays, be our guests, because we don't think you can do it. And we think we're going to make enough negative plays, whether it's a TFL in the run game, whether it's a sack, whether it's a forced fumble or an interception, that's good enough, because that's the way the Packers play defense. They're a top 12 defense by EPA per play, but that's really only because of turnovers. They fall to 20th when you take away the turnovers, down to down, play to play. Well, the weird thing about that is that's not what the Texans are doing well, even though it seems like they should. So don't let this be the week that they do that, because that certainly is something that could happen with CJ Stroud, but he's just that good. And then on the offensive side, I kind of telegraphed it. It's don't let those defensive ends wreck the game. Yeah. If you don't let those guys, especially at this point where the defense, the best players are now Hunter, Anderson, and Stingley. And I think the rest of that back 7, if you're playing 2 backup linebackers, a backup corner, a backup safety, that back 7 is potentially vulnerable. So if you can block it up front, I'm thinking heavy play action where you get these 2-man concepts, Christian Watson over the top. They're running dagger. They're running Yankee. They're running all these big inbreaker, Kyle Shanahan kind of stuff. That theoretically the Texans have seen in practice every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
Then I think the Packers can move the ball. I kind of like this matchup for the Packers right now. I'm going to be honest. And I said this earlier in the week. I think you'll appreciate it because you made the same point. If this game were in week 11, in week 12, I don't think I would be as confident as I am today because the Texans haven't quite hit their stride offensively. I think they will. I think they'll get Nico Collins back and they'll be a really good team. So Texans fans, don't get mad at me.
Yeah.
But I think I like the Packers in this game, something like 27-23, 27-24, something like that. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a good game. But I do think the Packers at home, they're clicking right now offensively in a way that the Texans are not. And so I like that.
Well, I have it the other way. I think that the Texans are going to win 28-14, and I think that they're going to force
14.
Yeah, because I don't think that Jordan Love is going to. So when I look at the comparison of the quarterbacks real quick, I like Jordan Love, but he can be forced into a lot of errors. And once his feet gets choppy back there, and once he starts, he's good on the move, but he isn't as good.
Hey, listen, tell your head coach, because he said Jordan Love is the best quarterback that they played this season, and they played Josh Allen already this season. So DeMeco Ryans believes in Jordan Love.
Yeah, but I mean, DeMeco Ryans also believed in Anthony Richardson. He also believed in Caleb Williams. He also believed in Trevor Lawrence. You see what I'm saying? He also said that Drake May, is going to come in and do an absolute job. I mean, we know how these coaches speak, but at the end of the day, Jordan Love is a very good quarterback, and it's going to be the best quarterback, yes, that they played up to now, because at the end of the season they had to play Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson back to back. So yes, Jordan Love is really good, but I mean, he's also subject to throw either 4 touchdowns or he could possibly throw 4 interceptions. And that's where it gets a little
He almost
sketchy.
did that against the Vikings.
That's where it gets a little sketchy to me, especially when they were down 28-0, and they did come back and score 22 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
but that's a lot.
29-3 run after going down 28-0.
So all I'm saying is that I got the Texans at 28-14.
See, I look at what happened in Minnesota, and I watched that tape. I watched that game. And I saw a team a well-schemed offense, because Sam Darnold can be forced into turnovers too. A well-schemed offense with good tackles. Zach Tom has not allowed a pressure this season. Zach Tom and Rasheed Walker, one of the best offensive tackle duos in the league. I look at that and I see a well-schemed offense can attack the perimeter and the deep half against the Texans. And so I think the Packers are going to be schemed up enough offensively. I have belief in Matt LaFleur. Even though I have so much respect for DeMeco Ryans, I just think from a personnel standpoint, Green Bay has an advantage there. Well,
let me ask you a question real quick, Peter.
Yeah.
Have they went up against 2 defensive ends like Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. that play the wide 9? Because it's easy
not
to
like
play.
This. I mean, they're the best edge pass rushers in the league right now, probably as a duo.
And so that's what I'm saying. It's easy for those tackles to be that good when they have that help from the interior, because the defensive ends are playing this close. When you spread them out and put them one-on-one on the island, now you got to see how good they are. And I mean, you also got to remember Danielle Hunter, Minnesota Vikings. He's seen these tackles before. He's seen this offense before. So that's all I'm saying, man.
Well, Zach Tom has seen them before. So was Rasheed Walker. So, it's familiarity breeds contempt. I think there's going to be some contempt. I think this is going to be a playoff atmosphere on Sunday. Both of these teams want this game bad. This is a statement opportunity. Someone's going to make a statement on Sunday. I think it's going to be the Packers. You think it's going to be the Texans. I will be live after the game. You can catch Locked On Texans after the game when it gets your podcast feed, your YouTube feed, wherever you check out the podcasts. We will talk to you guys very soon.